Welcome, everybody, to this month's episode of Cronin's Corner. It is great to have you with us. I am so pleased to be joined this month by Jeff Roberge, Executive Director at MassHire North Central, and Penny Doolittle, the Program Coordinator for Employer Services at MassHire.
Yes.
Senator, thanks so much for having us today.
Thank you
This
both.
is great.
So I think this episode is airing in July, but today is June 1st. We are about to enter a championship series with the Celtics here. So Jeff, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your prediction?
Go there. Oh man.
And there's a very good chance that when this airs in July, you're going to be wrong. So
All right,
no pressure. So no pressure.
I'm going with Celtics in 7. I think it's going to be tight, but I think 7th game, 3 seconds left. Inbound pass.
This could go viral.
three point from the top of the arc.
We're going to play this video over the winning shot.
3-point top of the arc. Celtics win by 1.
There it is. You got it from Jeff Roberge. Celtics in 7. That's our episode for this month. We'll see you in August. Everybody be safe, and reminder: fireworks are illegal in Massachusetts.
That's right.
No, but thank you both so much for joining us today. I think I talk about it all the time, but MassHire is the glue between developing a pipeline in our workforce to contribute to our local economy to make sure it's sustained and vibrant, and it's also creating pathways for young people to the middle class every day. So thank you for the work that you do to start.
I appreciate that. Thank you
Before
very much.
we kind of jump into the substance, Penny, can we start with you? Could
Sure.
you introduce yourself and just talk about your professional background and how you came to this position and in this line of work?
Absolutely. So I am actually the newly named market maker for the Central and North Central region. So I have both the Worcester area, basically from New Hampshire down to Connecticut, in the center of the state. And my role as market maker is to actually be the connection point between employers, job seekers, and training providers and grant funding as well. So primarily working directly with the employers to let them know about the available ARPA funding, which is American Rescue Act funding, that's available to set up training pipelines. So that's my primary role as market maker, and then I work additionally with the training providers so that they'll be the ones to deliver the training that the employers are interested in doing, and then also working with the CTI graduates from Career Technical Initiative to be able to help them get placed into jobs in the area to help our employers fill those needs.
So if you are an employer in North Central and you are frustrated because you cannot find a skilled workforce,
you should call me.
You should call Penny,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And before we go any further, can you just talk a little bit about the market maker model?
Sure.
And it's a new model.
It's a
right?
very new model, brand new for the state. There are actually 7 market makers across the whole state, and each of us has a set number of regions that we work directly with. And so the market maker really is much like what we call a business services rep, which is directly related to working with the employer. The difference is market makers have a long-term goal in terms of helping them create pipelines of job seekers coming in to work for them, as opposed to a business services rep who's going to do their immediate hiring needs. So a business service rep is going to do job fairs. They're going to post open positions for an employer on JobQuest, the state database. My role is really more long-term. It takes several months to get a grant, organize, figure out what the employer, help them to figure out what they want to actually teach or have taught, to connect them with the right training provider, and then have the training provider work with them to design the program, deliver the program, have MassHire help in sourcing job seekers, and then coming back in at the end as MassHire to help them get employed.
It can't be that difficult because you did all that in one breath, right?
It's simple. It's really simple.
and as a legislator, and I am really proud of the funding that we've directed to workforce development to fund a model like this. But the real work is done on your level, and implementation and execution.
Correct.
What do you think are the biggest challenges as you stand up this model and develop these relationships and pipelines that you're going to face here in North Central?
Great question. The biggest challenge right now is that pretty much every employer that I reach out to says, that's wonderful. We love that you have $200 million in American Rescue Act funding that you want to spend helping me train job seekers and create pipelines. The challenge is I'm already low staffed. So if I'm already hemorrhaging staff, I don't have enough staff to get my work done, I'm really not quite ready to talk about how to create a training pipeline, because I'm required then I have to
Devote resources and staff to it.
and I have to pull people off the floor when I don't have enough people right now doing the job. So that's probably the biggest challenge that we have. It is starting to ease a little bit, but we could use a lot more job seekers. I have a lot of jobs that we would love to have people fill. A lot of openings right now.
So if that's one of the challenges, what do you view as the real opportunity for this program to make to be impactful here in North Central?
I think the real opportunity is to get people into some really well-paying jobs. A lot of these employers that I am talking to about creating training pipelines have some really great jobs with good salaries, living wages, benefits, all of those pieces. And so it's trying really to draw the connections. And I think the hardest thing here, the challenge, is getting to our job seekers, getting that word out that that is exactly what we have available. They'll say, I can't find employment. I'm like, are you kidding? So working those pieces is really, really important.
And what's your professional background? How did you come to this role here?
I was a trainer for Talbots, for store managers across the country for many, many years. I fell into this job. I came in to actually try to get help on my resume because I needed a job. And Stacy Johnson, who's our Career Center operator, actually said to me, hold on, I need you to talk to someone. She went over to our former executive director, said you need to interview this person. I was interviewed the next day and hired 2 days after that. I was at the board for 5 years. I left as deputy director at the workforce board to basically do something else, and that something else was not something I was passionate about. And I happen to believe that the best work you can do is something that you really believe in and you're really passionate. So I was lucky. Job came open at the board, and Jeff was kind enough to hire me. So yeah, it's been great. I love it.
We're so grateful to have you,
Thank you.
and so excited about this program too.
I'm very excited. I just encourage any employers watching this, please reach out to me. I know you'll get my contact information, but if you don't catch it on the screen, just call the Mass Hire Center at North Central and ask for Penny Doolittle, and they'll put you in touch with me.
All right, Jeff, who are you?
Who am I? I'm just that guy.
We only got 20 minutes.
So I'm the executive director over at the Mass Hire Workforce Board down at Erdman Way. I've been in that role for, going on about 4 years now. Prior to coming over to the board, I worked for the Mass Rehab Commission. I was the West District Regional Director, so western part of the state, working for MRC in vocational rehabilitation. Spent most of my career working in career-related services for folks, primarily folks with disabilities. I worked at Seven Hills Foundation for many, many years. So I'm somebody who has a passion for workforce development, for making sure that people of all different backgrounds, experiences, abilities have access to good paying jobs and healthy community and family and ultimately hope. So my job is to help connect the dots, get people to work.
So our last guest here on Cronin's Corner was Bruce Platzman, who's the former CEO, now the chairman of AIS, and one of the region's largest employers. Over 800 people at his advanced manufacturing factory in Leominster. And the message from him is the same message that I know I get everywhere we go, and it doesn't matter what industry we're talking about. People, employers of every size, small, medium, large, are desperate for skilled workforces to come and join them. Absolutely. And they don't know what to do. They're wit's end, and it is absolutely a crisis. There are so many things that triggered it. The Great Resignation at the beginning of COVID, the mass unemployment, and just people who haven't rejoined the workforce yet. So I know from my perch in the legislature and in the Senate, we hear this, and we have committed some really significant resources to provide some relief to our industry and our economy here, not just in North Central, but across the state. So could either of you just help frame, as people who have been in this space for a number of years, the amount of resources that state and the feds are dedicating to workforce development compared to 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
It's unprecedented. I mean, quite frankly, when we started looking at the additional ARPA funding that came through, along with what historically has been workforce training dollars that have come from various parts of the legislature and line items, you're talking about initially it was $104 million, $50 million on the federal side, and I think 54 on the state side, upwards of $205 million being put into workforce development systems. And you're talking about your career centers, you're talking about your grant-funded training programs, you're talking about your expansion into the Career Technical Initiative, which is embracing the notion that our voc tech schools can operate throughout the day.
After 2 p.m.
After
right?
2 p.m.,
Yep.
engage adults, young folks in opportunities in the trades. So that was born of the adding on of a market maker role to really make sure that our employers not only in this region but across the state can have a direct point of contact to get information on how to access this funding. Majority of this funding goes towards workforce training. So what does that mean for the folks out there, right? From a workforce board standpoint, our goal is to make sure that we sit down with our training providers like our community colleges, like our voc tech schools, like our high schools, and analyze our labor market data, identify what our priority industries are in this region.
And what are they in
so
North
here,
Central?
so in North Central, we're looking at healthcare-related occupations, which are across the state. We're looking at advanced manufacturing or manufacturing-related occupations, transportation and logistics, trucking, warehousing, and then we're also looking at, to some degree in this region, education and IT related. Now, IT is going to fall a little bit closer to Boston, but certainly, we're seeing more and more need for people to enter into education-related careers. Not only from we build these training programs, we need trainers to train. But also, you speak to our high schools, we need that next generation of teachers
to step up,
to come into the system. So, from a workforce, we identify our priority industries, we take a look at the funding that's available to enhance those industries. We reach out to our partners like our employers, and that's the role that Penny plays, to bring them into that conversation. Where are your gaps? Where are the skills gaps? How can we, what's the next generation of workforce need to build this region up? And that's what, but you're talking about, hundreds of millions of dollars available to,
invest in the future.
Invest
right?
in the future.
Absolutely.
So I'll give you the same question that I gave Penny. Given the vision that you really described very articulately, and the resources that are historic and flowing into the region and the Commonwealth right now, what are the challenges that we're going to face to make these successful and to make these investments really pay off?
We have a labor shortage. You talked about it a little bit, and we talk about we need to
We're too close to full employment.
We're at full
Yeah.
employment, and quite frankly, the folks that are not working now are the same folks that weren't working prior to COVID, for the most part. That doesn't mean they can't work or don't want to work. We need to make sure that we're doing all that we can with regards to outreach, and I love the PSAs that you're doing, things like that, to make sure that people know where the services are.
Right.
We need to be visible in our communities. We need to be out there letting people know that the mass hire system, through the career centers, through the workforce boards, can help people identify where their skills can be best matched to the jobs. We need to continue our dialogue with our employers. When you talk about manufacturing, right, you start talking about technology, robotics, automation. This is the future, right? So we need to be on top of what does Massachusetts need to do to advance this industry as a whole. And then we need to prepare our workforce to do that. So that's where all of this funding comes in. We sit down with our community colleges, and we start looking at specialized training programs that help build those career ladders for folks.
One thing that you just said has kind of stuck with me. The people who aren't working now, or the same population for the most part who weren't working, what are some of those barriers that are keeping people out of the workforce? And this is outside of your domain of workforce development too, mostly. But what are those barriers that people are facing? Yeah.
And Penny, please feel free as well. I think in some cases you have a history of folks who have sort of been wrapped up in the system, right? It's this ongoing access to unemployment-related services. So it's sort of this historical, for these folks, It's sort of how they've been able to get by, and there's a lot of safety nets involved with that. And then you have generational challenges, personal economic challenges that, there's the fear of the cliff effect.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, it's the cliff effect. That's what's hard.
I am able to sustain my lifestyle based on the benefits that I'm receiving. I'm able to support my family just barely. I'm in a housing situation where it may be subsidized or maybe not, but if I take that job, and
all that's at risk.
Yes.
All that's at risk.
Yeah.
So there's a challenge. That's not everybody. And I think we have folks
But it makes it harder to break out of a generational cycle of poverty, right?
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then I think there are folks, and this is where my background with disabilities comes into play, that we have an untapped workforce. You have folks who have been previously incarcerated. You have folks with who live with some varying form of ability or disability. There's sort of this untapped workforce that historically, for a variety of different reasons, may not have had access to long-term sustained employment opportunities. There may be these sort of jobs that are available. So I think we need to do a much better job of educating our employers of the value of someone's skill set, regardless of their background or ability. We need to align our community support programs in our regions and bring them into the workforce development system. Historically, you have your workforce system, and then you have your community service system, right?
It's got to be integrated.
It's got to be integrated.
Everything has to be integrated.
So, for instance, all of the grant work that we do now, you have the ability to align partners, and as part of the grant application, you list the different partners. And historically, it's always been employers, your career center system, and your workforce board. We make it a point to make sure that we are also including places like the Spanish American Center, United Way, Seven Hills Foundation, other Boys and Girls Club, whatever it may be, that are in touch with the actual communities. We need our community leaders to be at the table when we talk about workforce development, because it's not just about the job. It's about someone's ability to live healthy in their community. It's about what are those pre-vocational skills or support services.
Soft skills, right?
Or just stable housing, mental health services.
Transportation.
So if we are truly going to build sustained employment opportunities and long-term partnerships with our employers, it has to involve our community as a whole, our workforce system as well as our community service system. So,
can you talk about career technical institutes, the genesis of these programs, and how they're coming up and manifesting themselves here in North Central, and the opportunity to grow and expand the model?
So as the Baker administration made it a priority to make sure that there was an enhancement and better utilization of our vocational tech schools. And there was, I think originally it was $6 million, and I can't remember off the top of my head now, 14, 12, it may be even higher.
In the budget that the Senate passed last week, it's $15 million.
15 million.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll probably we'll probably be 20 for next fiscal year.
So the original notion was that we have these amazing facilities across the Commonwealth that have the expertise and the equipment to train people in. Initially, it was the trades, right? And we know that there's a shortage in tradespeople across
everything. Name a trade.
Name a trade.
Pick your trade.
So the notion was that that the schools would then open into 3 different shifts, I'll call them. So you had the traditional, the students are at the Voc Tech schools in the morning. There may be the opportunity for early in the afternoon, students from outside of who don't attend the school, the high schools, can go to the Voc Tech school to get additional training, and then the evening would be open to under and unemployed adults. And here in this region, we partner directly with Monty Tech, Neshoba Valley Tech, and Minuteman Tech. And we focus on things like HVAC, advanced manufacturing, plumbing, welding, automotive technician. The notion is that these are facilities that have the state-of-art of equipment that can be accessed and should be accessed by the general public, and through the Mass Hire system, they receive career counseling, they receive post-graduation job placement and career-driven. They have now the addition of a market maker who is also positioning with employers to be directly connected to these programs, these CTI programs. The CTI grants are rolling, so there's opportunities for existing voc tech schools who haven't engaged in offering these services to get involved, to get in and do it and offer programming. And there's an ongoing funding to keep these cohorts going. It's been incredible.
It's exciting. So we're going to be able to see programs become successful and double down on those investments. I know we were at a brief, it was probably a month or two ago, and you said since January, 40 people in North Central had been through a CTI program. How do we scale that? And how do we make that number 400 over the next fiscal year? I mean, how do we build up and just broaden and expand these pathways?
I think one key factor will be, as CTI evolves, that there will be the allowance for additional training pipeline opportunities. It was targeted for the trades, right? Because that's the highest priority. I think that as the program continues to be funded, expanding into other occupational sectors, that will provide additional opportunity for folks to engage in these programs. We also need to, and I'll take a step back to the education piece, is acquire more trainers.
Yeah.
We're having trouble with instructors in some of these, especially like in the training pipelines that I'm working on, is to make sure that we have enough instructors to be able to teach the topic, and especially in the trades it gets challenging. There's a lot of early retirement as well, which has impacted the availability of instructors. So the state has actually opened that up a little bit and is now allowing for a technical expert, someone coming in who's actually working in the field, to be an instructor as well. So there are some new ideas coming out. It seems like every day we come up with some new ideas, which is great, but it does take a little bit of time.
Can you talk also about the role that innovation pathways and programs in our comprehensive high schools, like Fitchburg and Gardner specifically, the role and the opportunity that those programs have to create pathways into the local and regional economy?
These are foundational and paramount programs for young folks to get exposure to priority industries in the region. They are opportunities through funding for our comprehensive high schools to get access to equipment through capital skills grants, through innovation pathway programs, to bring industry recognized state-of-the-art equipment into the high schools and offer students the opportunity to learn those skills while partnering with employers in the region for internships, the ability to then engage directly with employers on the skills they're learning in these high schools. It offers the opportunity, and I think I heard Bruce talk. I heard you and Bruce talking about it in your earlier segment. The opportunity for students to be exposed to not only pathways that lead to college and a four-year degree, but the opportunity to be exposed to a variety of different industries that are meaningful and necessary for the region, and offer the opportunity for these folks to grow up in their communities, become part of their communities, raise a family, buy a house, and truly pursue what we know to be high demand, higher paying careers. The innovation pathway programs, the access to capital skills money to bring in equipment, at that, I mean, I love seeing it at the high schools. I would love the opportunity, as this evolves, for us to be able to start looking at the junior high schools.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And exposing young folks to the hands-on engagement.
And starting to develop the soft skills that they need for the first high school job they get, whether it's scooping ice cream or...
What Fitchburg has been able to, Fitchburg High School, we've been on a couple tours. It's beautiful over there, and the teachers are so passionate, and you sit down and you talk. The Lieutenant Governor came out, you sit down and you talk with these students, and you're right, it's not just about those, the hands-on hard skills. The opportunity to develop, what it means to work in a workplace culture, and that's key. The more more and more employers we talk to, right? I'll train somebody. I can train somebody.
I can teach them skills. The problem is
they need to be a good fit.
I need them to be motivated. I need them be
Show up on
concerned
time.
about
Yep.
attendance,
Yeah.
all of those kinds of things, and those are those soft skills.
Yeah.
I was doing assistant director of college admissions work for a number of years in between stints here, and that's one of the biggest challenges. I worked directly with high schools throughout the state of Massachusetts to bring soft skills to classrooms, and that was just an incredible need. And I think it's ongoing, but I think it needs to be even younger than when we were teaching it. I was teaching it at the sophomore, junior, senior level, and I think it should be at 7th, 8th, 9th grade,
Yeah.
much earlier. I also think picking careers, they need that exposure. They need the innovations pathways, because how do we pick careers? I went to college, I was an English major because I was good at English, but I didn't really have any plan with what to do with that.
Right.
And I think that that's often true. Oh, I'm going to be an engineer, says my nephew. What's an engineer do? I don't know, but my dad said it's really good and it pays well.
Right.
You know, he'd
Yeah.
probably be really fascinated with some of the life science kinds of opportunities that are going on now.
So one thing that I'm really proud of that we did for Innovation Pathways in the budget that we passed last week in the Senate, so we increased the statewide line item was $600,000 last year. It's going to be $4.8 million this year,
That's
which I think
amazing.
is
Amazing.
It's another
Congratulations.
example of doubling down on these types of programs, doubling down and exponentially growing these things to create more of these kinds of opportunities and dedicate more resources
I mean, it
to
really
it.
is the next generation of workforce, right?
It is.
Right?
You start there.
Right. All right, so before we get any further, I know we've got a public service announcement that talks about the career technical institutes and some of the pathways that we've been working on here in North Central. So if you are unemployed or underemployed, go to Mass Hire and connect with the people who can connect you with the training to upskill you into the local and regional economy.
There are free opportunities at the Mass Hire North Central Career Center, where you meet with a professional career counselor who sit down with you individually. They look at your history. They can conduct a variety of different assessments that help you identify where your skills are, acquire new training to pursue a different type of career. Counselors have access to a database that lists all of the potential openings across North Central Massachusetts.
We're having trouble finding people. We have business is very strong, and we have 80 openings right now. And we're working closely with Mass Hire in a lot of different areas.
The whole region in North Central should be so excited about the Career Technical Initiative because there's something for everybody. Call Mass Hire right now and make sure that you are using all the services that they provide. To find a point on this, who is Mass Hire for, and who should be reaching out to you, Jeff, and to you, Penny?
It's for employers and job seekers. So employers, that's the market maker role again, but any job seeker who is underemployed, unemployed, or even just not happy in the job they're in, looking for a better job, should definitely be reaching out to us at the Mass Hire Career Center. You can come in person, or you can set up a virtual appointment with one of our career counselors. There's no cost, and there are lots of other things that we can help with as well.
And if you're an employer who's looking to learn more about how workforce training funding can help enhance your business, Mass Hire is the place to come. The Workforce Board can connect you to a variety of different resources, funding opportunities, additional information on how your current workforce, how there's money available to upskill and train your current workforce, connection to our education partners in the region to have that one-to-one dialogue. As I'm Bruce Blatzman, I'm AIS. We're looking at purchasing these new machines, but we really need this technical skill to do that. Align with Mass Hire. Sit down with a training provider,
And let's build it out.
Let's build it out,
Right.
and then bring
Exactly.
it directly to the job seeker with the career centers who get that career counseling, and then full circle, right back to work at AIS.
Very good. So Jeff, Penny, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Senator, thank you.
And thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. I mean, both of you do God's work, and it's so important to the people who are in this region and the future of our economy. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do to help both our employers and our job seekers. Thank you.
It's my
Senator,
pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you,
and,
Senator.
And thank you for the work you do. You have been the advocate of all advocates for
Trying.
workforce development. So You know,
I want a second invite back to the workaround. I want to come back. And,
You come back to the workaround.
Yeah, they say, you know, you've made it once you get on the workaround once, but when you get on the workaround and Gardner Access TV
It'll
twice, you've really
It
arrived.
becomes a series. It
That's
just
right.
is. You know,
That's right.
Syndicate.
All right, everybody, that's our show for this month. We'll see you in August. Be safe and enjoy the closing days of summer.
Thank you.